Members, thank you very much. I know it's a very busy time. We very much appreciate you hearing this bill and giving us an opportunity to highlight this very important and crucial situation that we're all working together on. I'm very happy to have the Majority Leader, Assemblymember Tirico, join me as well. He is working very diligently in your House on additional legislation to do what we can to save our very last automobile manufacturing plant in the state of California. As you know, as you mentioned, Mr. Chair, Senate Concurrent Resolution 53 memorializes the intent and our resolve to do what we can to keep this plant in Fremont, California, and continuing to manufacture. It is the new United Motors Manufacturing Auto Plant, known as NUMMI, which has been in the past a joint venture between General Motors and Toyota, a very successful joint venture. Sadly, with the recent bankruptcy of General Motors decided to leave the Fremont plant, and Toyota is now faced with deciding what to do and dealing with the closure of that partnership. We are very happy to note that what we're hearing, at least through some of the press accounts, is that no decision has been made, but they are watching the legislature closely to see what we do. And, you know, I think what we're about today is letting them know we're here to help them. The resolution does recognize that NUMMI is a major economic force here in the state of California, and that it is the priority of this body to preserve that plant. In addition to the 4,700 residents who are employees at NUMMI also supports local economies and economies in every corner of the state of California. They do business with over 1,000 suppliers and vendors and small parts manufacturers. And NUMMI's total statewide payroll impacts $1,437,000,000. One can follow the tracks to see NUMMI's economic impact throughout the state. I know many of you probably have manufacturers in your own districts. And of course it impacts everywhere from our railroads to our truck transport to the ports to energy providers to small business manufacturers. Nearly 20,000 jobs in the state are directly associated with what goes on at NUMMI. And, you know, Assemblymember Tirico and I are very, very conscious of the fact of how it impacts our local community as well, the small businesses that serve the employees of the plant and all of the surrounding suppliers that are located in the Fremont area as well. So, members, what we have today is an opportunity to save this plant. I pledge to work with all of you and Assemblymember Tirico and I and with Toyota and all of the stakeholders to protect the workers and the industries in my district, but throughout the state of California that will be impacted by this. With us today, we have from the United Auto Workers Local 2244, the President, Sergio Santos, the UAW Bargaining Chair, Javier Contreras. Bruce Kern is also here from Alameda County with the East Bay Economic Development Alliance. And also joining us, of course, is Pat Kokomo, who has been a tireless supporter and advocate and lobbyist for NUMMI. I ask for your support on SCR 53, and I'm glad to answer any questions you might have on other legislation that's moving as well. And I would also invite Assemblymember Tirico, the Majority Leader, to say some comments as well.
Thank you. By all means.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Senator Corbett. I wanted to just say a couple of things very briefly. First, the measure before you today, Mr. Chairman and members, is part of a package. And I believe it may be an unprecedented package in California, certainly unprecedented since I've been here, in which the governor's office, the state senate, the state assembly, in a bipartisan fashion, along with a slew of local elected officials and local agencies, including Mr. Kern, County Supervisor Scott Haggerty, the mayor of Fremont, we've all been involved and engaged in this issue. I grew up about 3 miles from the NUMMI plant. When I was growing up, it was a GM plant, and in the early 80s, that plant shut down, and it resulted in the loss of jobs for almost 10,000 workers at that time. And the impact was devastating to our local economy, but more than that, the impact was devastating to the very fabric of Fremont and the East Bay. I had many classmates whose usually then fathers had to find new jobs. Many of your coworkers moved to Kentucky and Cincinnati and all over the country, and one classmate father attempted to commit suicide. And those stories were well known throughout the community. So to talk about this issue in these economic times where California can ill afford to lose a single job, we're talking about directly 4,700 jobs, potentially 25 to 30,000 jobs. Manufacturing in California is almost non-existent. And unless we change our policies, some of our tax policies and other policies that will encourage the creation of what in essence are blue-collar jobs. They're few and far between now in California, and for me, these blue-collar jobs, we have several rungs to become middle-class families in California, or we used to have. One of them was education, and another one was a good blue-collar job. That's the route my father took, as a janitor, as a baggage handler, and that's how we became a middle-class family. If we don't do something to stem the tide and to encourage the creation and retention of these of these blue-collar jobs, we're gonna see the middle class continue to become smaller and smaller, and that's the challenge before us. Long term, the immediate challenge is to do everything that we can at the state level to send a very clear signal to Toyota that factory is important to us and that we're going to do everything we can to make California a competitive place to do business. Toyota has several car factories throughout North America, Canada and Mexico included, and that presents some significant challenges for us. I think that our collaborative efforts, including the UAW's efforts, to go back to the bargaining table and to reach an agreement that makes economic sense for both the workers and for Toyota, and all the efforts on the governmental side, I think we are up to the task. But we have to act quickly. So I appreciate very much, Mr. Chairman, your willingness to hear this bill today and appreciate the attention of the members and encourage all of us to join as co-authors of this important resolution. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Senator Torrico. If we could have supporters to speak on the measure, and as well, if you can limit your comments to 3 minutes or less.
Okay. Good morning. I'm Sergio Santos. I'm the local union president at Local 2244. To tell you a little bit about myself, I'm a third-generation UAW auto worker. My grandfather worked at the Fisher Body Plant in Oakland. My father later on got a job there and moved to General Motors in Fremont in 1964. In 1982, the plant was hit with economics. There was a gas issue back in the 80s, and they were building a heavy truck. And my father and along with the rest of the members in the plant were out of a job. And like Mr. Torrico said, it caused a lot of suicides, a lot of divorces, a lot of changes, and a lot of our members then went to poverty. When I was leaving, my father was laid off. We had 4 brothers, and one of them was the only one able to go to college, and three of us were leaving and getting ready to get out of school, and it was hard. My father for bankruptcy. Our family broke apart for a while, but it came back together, and I hate to see what happened in my family in '82 happen again.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, my name is Javier Contreras. I'm the bargaining chairman of Local, and I want to thank the members of the board here for giving me the opportunity to speak here on behalf of the members of Local 2244. Again, New United Motors has given the members the opportunity to advance in their lives. They've been able to buy homes, support their family, and we're not just talking about 4,600 members. We're talking about 40,000 around the whole community and the state. You know, that manufacturing plant has asked the members to achieve to be one of the best auto builders in the world, and they have. They've ranked high in the J.D. Powers. They built one of the best quality cars in the world. They've come up with new technology. They continue to improve every day, day in and day out. It would be devastating if that plant closes. That plant there, you know, a lot of times we look at jobs, but you know, it takes a member to do a job, and that member there has a family, and if that manufacturing shuts down, it's just not that one worker, and it's just not that one job, but it's all those members that have families that it's going to affect. Again, you know, I'm here and I'm asking help from each and every one of you to help us keep NUMMI here in existence, the manufacturing plant, and to continue the growth here in California that we need so bad. Again, thank you for allowing me to speak here.
Thank you, Mr. Contreras. Others in support?
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members. I'm Bruce Kern, Executive Director of the East Bay Economic Development Alliance that handles economic development for both Alameda and Contra Costa County. In early July, we inquired and worked with the Governor's Office and the administration, along with your Department of Labor and Workforce Agency and your Business Transportation, to establish a red team. And that was really a joint local government, state-wide effort, including labor, your utilities, and others, about 50 organizations really working together to prepare a proposal for Toyota to be able to compete for the retention of this facility, not only to deal with the near-term cost issues that they face and some of the competitive issues that Assemblymember Tirico talked with other states, but also to be a plant that can build the cars of the future, one where California's technology, leading edge, both in design, hybrid technology, and that we see that this is a perfect marriage and one that would really advance California as a leading state for vehicle production of zero-emission or low-fuel vehicles. We have to, the proposal that we have put together, which is being worked on and will be finalized and forwarded to Toyota Motor Company later this week, involves 5 areas. Logistics, and as I shared with you, and the Senator Corbett reference, here's a statewide impact. So you're not just focusing on a single plant, you're focusing on over 1,000 suppliers, component part suppliers in California that go from Redding all the way down to San Diego and throughout the state. Logistics in the area cost, energy, workforce, the issue of plant and facilities, sales tax, and other issues that they face that we're competitively disadvantaged from other states, along with environmental compliance. We also address trying to use California's large market as an incentive for not only the new vehicles, and so there are a number of proposals that we put forward to try to incentivize the production and purchasing of California vehicles by local and state government. Finally, we saw this as a perfect opportunity to marriage between many of the leading technology in the area of battery technology, along with in the area of metals. And this is where our universities, our national labs, and other research centers play a critical role. This proposal, we hope, will be well received, but fundamental to it will be the action by this legislature on 3 areas: energy, area of sales and use tax, and the area of tax credits that are necessary to level the playing field that we have with other states to compete for this and to build a future industry here in California. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kern. Appreciate that. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Angie Way on behalf of the California Labor Federation. Earlier this year, we testified before this committee on the issue of manufacturing in California, and our collective conclusion then was we don't build enough in California. It would be a real tragedy, a shame if we lost this plant, this good union plant, on our collective watch. And we need to put all the resources we can to try and save these good jobs at NUMMI and the surrounding facilities. We're also proud to say that we've been able to work with the authors on tax incentives to create and craft tax incentives that we can support in these very tough budget times. These tax incentives that incentivize NUMMI to stay in California and to reward them to maintain these jobs. They also would incentivize through the sales tax issues the purchase of new equipment so that the facility can be upgraded and try and embrace the new technologies that we think will help them tap into the markets here in California. It would be terrific if we would be able to build a hybrid in which Californians would be proud to buy from California, made by California workers. And so we have also put our rapid response workforce development team on this matter, and they are surveying all the available workforce training dollars that we can bring to bear, both at the local, state, and federal level. And so we're very pleased to support this resolution. We continue to be very pleased and proud to work with these authors to create a tax incentive package that's going to work for our members there at the plant as well as for NUMMI. We appreciate this opportunity, and we ask for your support.
Thank you, Ms. Wee. Any other supporters? Mr. Stewart.
Hello.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. I'm Jack Stewart. I'm president of the California Manufacturers and Technology Association, and we're very pleased to support this SCR 53 to encourage NUMMI and Toyota to stay in California. Now, I've worked with NUMMI now for the last, actually, I was working for Duke Majan administration in the Department of Commerce when we cited NUMMI here in the first place 25 years ago. So kind of tells a little bit about my age and how long I've been around the building here. But it's been a very positive thing for California. And as I look at it, we have, in fact, over the last, since the dawn of this century, we've lost approximately 8 to 10 NUMMIs in California every year in our manufacturing base. And this is a very good poster child for us as we look at what we've done to the cost of manufacturing in California. California is almost 25% more costly to do business in other states. And what we're admitting that today by saying in order to keep NUMMI here, we need to level the playing field. Well, we really need to level the playing field for all manufacturers in California and keep California manufacturing strong. It's the basis for middle-class jobs. Mr. Santos mentioned a minute ago about the middle-class jobs that NUMMI creates and the opportunity it's given for so many families in the Bay Area. Well, frankly, manufacturing and the aerospace industry once gave hundreds of thousands of jobs to California, throughout California, in the Bay Area and in Los Angeles. That industry has shrunk. Our high-tech industry has shrunk. We need to find ways to incentive companies to stay here. I see bright lights in the biotech industry, a growing industry in California. The problem with biotech is we do all the R&D here, and then we ship the manufacturing off to some other location, another state or another country. We need to find ways to incent that industry to start growing here so we have the middle-class jobs here in California that create the tax base. We had the honor a few months ago, Angie Way mentioned that we presented a study here on Manufacturing 2.0 done by the Milken Institute that found that had we maintained, we did an economic retrospective in that study, looked at what would California look like today if we had just maintained the same level of manufacturing jobs and output for the 7 years between January of 2001 and December of 2007. And the fact is California's employers would be $75 billion richer, and the state would be enjoying $5 billion in more income tax to the state had we just maintained that level, not increased the level, just maintained the same level. I handed out a graph to you that some of you may have seen before. This graph represents EDD numbers, straight off of EDD, from January of 2001 through December of 2008. And I didn't go any further than that because I think 2008 is a good cutoff point because it doesn't reflect the great number of layoffs that have happened since then. If you see manufacturing jobs for the first 8 years of this century, this decade, have declined by 475,000. There have been about another 90,000 layoffs since the first of the year, if that's of interest to anyone. But the important thing in this chart is, and that I'd like to point out, is the job, in every economy you have a churn of jobs. Some industries, some sectors create jobs, some sectors lose jobs. Over the first 8 years of this decade, jobs we lost were valued at $69,000 a year, while the jobs we created were valued at $43,000 a year. Now, I mean, I ask you, how long can we sustain that? And if that's the wave of the future, we become a poorer and poorer economy and society for that as Californians. So I just urge you all, as we look at these issues, understand that the same issues that are affecting NUMMI are issues that affect every manufacturer in California. I've just been recently, this has been kind of my week of lasts in a sense. The last automobile plant in California. I was just doing some work with Boeing. They have their last airplane assembly plant in California, the C-17, which could shut down. There are no more orders for C-17s, and that's another 5,000 jobs in Long Beach and 13,000 supplier jobs. And then I was just down in San Diego at the General Dynamics NASCO plant, which is a shipbuilding plant in San Diego. Their future is uncertain, and that's 4,000 direct jobs there and another 1,000 contract jobs in San Diego. So we have all of these things churning in California, and now's our opportunity. Instead of coming back and saying, oh, let's do something special for this company or that company, let's figure out a way to make California the best we can make it for all manufacturers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Anyone else here in support?
Steve Wallach on behalf of the Alameda County Board of Supervisors. I'd just like to add the support of the county for this measure and appreciate the efforts of our legislative delegation in acting so quickly and trying to keep this plan open and urge your support.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. You're here in support?
Yes, I am. Pat Cacamone with the International Representative for UAW. You've heard of so much of devastation that happens during when the plant does close down. For instance, when General Motors was there and it actually closed down. The thing is that NUMMI, back then, we had like 8 automobile manufacturing plants in California, and it was over 100 employees that it employed in these 8 automobile plants. Right now, we're down to the NUMMI plant, which employs 4,700. So as you can see, the outsourcing that's happened to many of the states with automobiles has been really devastating, not only for California, but the whole United States. It's very, very important to the fact of keeping NUMMI here in California. Actually, we can't afford not to. The revenue that goes into our funds would be devastating. We all know that the budget is pretty shaken right now, and I think it would just make it even worse with 30-plus people out of work, the foreclosure, the bankruptcy, and an ongoing effect that it will happen. But we have suppliers that are all based through a radius of 30-plus miles from NUMMI. Many of them are from Lathrop, all the way down to in Manteca and all around those surrounding areas, Livermore. So with the closure of that plant, those communities definitely will see an impact, including Fremont. I urge and I sincerely request that each and every one of you vote yes. And again, to the chair, thank you very much for having us to speak on this.
Well, thank you, Ms. Cacamone. Appreciate your words. Any other supporters? Anyone here in opposition? I'd like to open up for questions from the members. Mr. Dan Logue, you have any questions or concerns or ideas?
This has been great, and then I want to congratulate our chairman for putting this on. This is the tip of the iceberg. Mr. Stewart has already addressed that issue. The problem that we have is NUMMI is the poster child for what's wrong with the economic crisis in California. It is the poster child. You are the perfect example of what happens when governments think they know how to run businesses better than you. They want to overtax you, overregulate you, and then when they regulate you, they fine you, and then when they fine you, they keep the fines. This is a perfect example of how to go broke and make sure everybody's equally broke and poor. And I think that's what's happening to our state unless we begin to understand that your industry and NUMMI and the investment that you put into your own business, it's really your money. And so my commitment is that we give you the tax credits, that we support you in every way possible, and you know what else? We do it for all manufacturing. We don't just stop with you. You may be the best thing that ever happened to the state because you finally got everybody to open their eyes and go, you know what, there's a problem here. And Mr. Stewart hit it right on the head. For every one job in manufacturing you create 3 to 5 other off-site jobs. It's just phenomenal. So You're our working heroes because you're a perfect example of what wealth is all about. You create it, and everybody benefits from it. And then our tax revenues miraculously start to rise. And we have more resources to provide for schools and environmental cleanups and law enforcement. It's a great thing. The problem we have, ladies and gentlemen, is that California cannot compete with Texas, Arizona, Nevada, other states. We have, I don't know if Jack had introduced this, but we have manufacturing in California that may not be leaving, but they're expanding everywhere else. In other words, Kraft Foods, when they expand, they're going to Missouri. And so you're a good example of how, our chairman and our members here, who I'm very proud to sit with, I believe we want to take this thing head on. And I don't want to stop with NUMMI, because if you're healthy in your business, the state is healthy. And if other manufacturing is healthy, the state will become healthier. So I just want to commend you today. I met with NUMMI in my office. I said, why are you leaving? And they said, high taxes, overregulation. He said, that sums it all up. So what we want to do is create opportunities for you. And if the government can do one thing, it can give you your money back so you can invest it and we can get out of your way. So I just want to thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Logan. Appreciate your words. Any other comments, thoughts from members? Ms. Huber?
Senator Corbett, I just wanted to thank you so much for acting quickly to bring this resolution forward, and the entire delegation that represents the Fremont area. Just on a personal note, I was born at Washington Hospital in Fremont, so I started my elementary school in Fremont, and I have very close family ties to the area. I also now represent San Joaquin, which has 9 suppliers for the NUMMI plant. So this issue is very close, near and dear to my heart. You have my full support. Anything that we can do from this committee or on the assembly floor to help make sure that we keep these manufacturing jobs in California, I just wanted to thank you very much for bringing it forward.
Thank you.
Actually, I'm sorry, Mr. Berrio. Ms. Salas and then Mr. Berrio.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I used to work for California Trade and Commerce Agency and actually participated on Red Team, so I'm glad to see that a Red Team has been formed to try to get this very, very important manufacturing facility to remain viable in the state of California. And so much has been said about the importance of manufacturing and what it really means to the health of the state of California and the health and the stability of families. My grandparents came here from Mexico, and when they came here from Mexico, they had 7 sons, and those 7 sons went into the military, and after they got out of the military, without exception, each and every one of them went to work in the aircraft plants in San Diego. And those kinds of jobs and the kinds of jobs that are at NUMMI are the kind of jobs that allow a family to have a stable source of income. And when you have stability in your income, you have stability in your family life. And then what happens is then that family can make sure that their children are educated and that move forward to go into other professions. But we cannot underestimate the importance of manufacturing jobs in the state of California and how we must do everything that we possibly can in order to make sure that the manufacturing base does not shrink as it has been shrinking. And, we have a lot of competition, and much of that competition has to do with the cost of living in the state of California, the cost of doing business in the state of California. Even our neighboring NAFTA partners, really that's what we're competing against. In my own district, San Diego, just a few miles from the border is a Toyota manufacturing plant in Tijuana. It employs thousands and thousands of people. This is the competition we are also facing when you have the wage basis that is so disparate. But, I don't think that we want to compete to drive down wages. That's not the goal of this at all. Because if we were try to do that, then it would do us little well to keep those manufacturing jobs if we could not also keep manufacturing jobs that sustain families, much as my family was sustained, and I would venture to say that many people on this dais were sustained. So thank you, Senator Corbett, and all the other Assembly members and senators that are working on this particular project. And this is, this is absolutely a no-brainer that we all must support this effort.
Thank you, Ms. Salas.
Thank you.
Mr. Berry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Senator, for bringing this forward. I think pretty much everything's kind of been said here. I am curious. We referred to a package going forward. What would that packaging include?
There are 3 bills that will be moving, policy bills, and you will see them on the floor of the Assembly, and we will see Assemblymember Tarico's on the floor of the Senate, of course, and they may be heard in committees as well. I'm not quite sure what the steps will be. The Rules Committee will be letting us know, and I hope you can all support the efforts to keep these bills moving, and they may require rule waivers because this situation came to us late in the legislative year by no fault of anyone's, so I hope you can support that. But the 3 main bills that are moving at this point are the bill by Assemblymember Tarico, Majority Leader Tarico. His bill deals with exempting automotive manufacturers from the paying of sales tax on manufacturing equipment. And I know he's continuing to work on that bill, and I haven't had a recent conversation, so there may be some other incentives in his bill as well, and I'm sure he can fill you in on those details. Senator Wright is working on a measure that has a package of incentives, including tax credits, sales tax exemption, procurement benefits, energy rate reductions, and looking at an enterprise zone as well. And as I represent the Fremont plant, my bill zeroes in on an enterprise zone being created in the Fremont area. And as you all know on this committee, enterprise zones have a complete package of tax credits and ways to streamline processes and encourage not only the continued manufacturing in an area, but also the siting of others as well. And very important to this plant is the siting of suppliers close by as well, which is something we've all been working on over the years leading up to this. So that is the package, generally speaking. What we have done, Senator Wright's very involved because he has a supplier plant in his district in Compton, and obviously Majority Leader Tarico and myself are very involved because of our local plant, NUMMI. But we are, what we have done is we've done a survey of all of the various tools that are out there, and the package has evolved looking at the tools we have available to us as legislators to help keep this plant here and help Toyota understand that we are very, very committed to supporting them and moving forward. They entered into a partnership a number of years ago to continue to keep that plant operating, and through no fault of their own, unfortunately, GM has walked away from that partnership. So it is important that we also support them and recognize their past efforts at the plant as well, and that's really what this is about.
Well, I applaud what you guys are doing, and I think, as my colleague Mr. Logue alluded to, California, maybe this is our wake-up call. Beyond the auto industry, we need a holistic approach to all of manufacturing because we are losing them at a rapid rate, and we've got to stop the slide of job loss in California. And so hopefully through these pieces of legislation, we'll be taking a step toward that, because we can't continue to regulate and strangulate business in California. And I know during the campaign, my deal was we keep rolling out the red tape while other states roll out the red carpet. And as Assemblymember Salas stated, it's about competition, and we've got to be competitive, and we should be able to be. We've got a great state with so many great assets, and so hopefully this is the beginning of a new era in California in manufacturing, and we can start creating jobs and bringing jobs back. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Berryhill. We're going to go in order, so Mr. Bell, please.
I just like to congratulate the Senator and Mr. Tirico for introducing not just this resolution, but the package. I'm very concerned about this in the sense that the Berryessa area, San Jose, is in my district. I represent those people, and there's a lot of my constituents that lives are at stake here in terms of this particular measure. I will do everything I can to assist you in making sure that this plant stays in Fremont.
Thank you.
My wife's a Fremont girl, and she went to Washington High School. And I have family members that still live in Fremont that have worked in the plant over the last few decades and have benefited by the plants being there. I wanted to bring up one additional area that we can work on, continue to work on. I know that the Caltrans has their plan for economic development and programs in assisting the transportation plan to help economic development. And one of the key elements is to connect the NUMMI plant with the Port of Oakland, because a lot of the vehicles and parts and so forth go through the Port of Oakland. The Port of Oakland's biggest customers are the NUMMI plant and the agriculture in the Central Valley. Those are the two main customers of the Port of Oakland. I believe that if we promote both the NUMMI plant and agriculture, the Port of Oakland will continue to thrive. And we need to have good transportation systems that connect the Port of Oakland with the NUMMI plant. The Caltrans plan right now includes many improvements to the rail transportation from the Port of Oakland to the NUMMI plant. And I know that the Silicon Valley area is very concerned about this. We believe that this is going to be an essential thing to save in terms of the economy of our area. And we want to have all those connections included in the plan. And I urge Caltrans also to expedite the improvements they have planned for the Port of Oakland connecting to the NUMMI plant, because that rail transportation is essential. One of the things I like to point out is that it's mystifying that we're closing a plant that builds Corollas when you know we had this Cash for Clunkers program, and they ran out of Corollas. The people were buying the Corollas, and a lot of the auto dealers have been saying, hey, no more Corollas, you have to buy some other car if you want to turn your... And I know because my stepson went and tried to buy a Corolla, and they didn't have one for him. And he tried to turn his clunker in, which we've been urging him to do for the last 2 years, because it keeps breaking down, and we had to continue to shell out money to fix it for him. And you know, the Corolla was the great car that we wanted to buy for him, and there wasn't any available. So what's the problem? We should promote the plant, and they're building cars that people are buying. So it's obviously a winnable product that they're making. So let's do everything we can to help this, and I will work as much as I can on this. Thank you.
Assemblymember Bell, I think you have some very willing people who are very happy to build as many Corollas as you'd like, including that one for your son.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Mr. Block?
Mr. Chair, I'll move the bill.
Is there a second? You know, I know that there's other questions and points that want to be made. If that's okay, I also know that members need to leave. Some members need to leave. So we're going to call a roll, and we're going to continue the discussion, if that's okay with folks. So let's call a roll, please.
V. Manuel Perez.
Aye.
Aye. Logue. Aye. Bell. Aye. Bill Berryhill. Aye. Block. Aye. Huber.
Aye.
Aye. Salas. Aye.
Would you be willing to add co-authors?
Oh, absolutely, please.
Anyone here like to
Anybody
be a
want to be a co-author? Very good. Very good. Everybody?
I think
Unanimous?
everybody on
Everybody. Very good.
the Jobs
Thank
Committee
you.
would be a
Thank
co-author.
you very much.
So, Mr. Block, did you have a question or a point? Ms. Torres?
Thank
Thank you, Assemblymember Perez. I crashed your party today because I'm here to remind not just the members and the senator, but also to be the voice of the 1,000 jobs that are in my district and would be impacted by the closure of this plant. And when we look at enterprise zones, again, I know that some of my colleagues are sticklers for a certain process and deadlines and timelines and all of those things. But when we look at how we're going to include this plant in a new zone or expand a zone to include this plant, I think that we need to include all of the tool manufacturers and all of the other jobs that exist because of this plant. The enterprise zone should not just be targeted to the area where this plant is. The enterprise zone should be targeted to the manufacturing jobs that impact this plant. And that includes my district in Ontario. It includes Senator Wright's district in Compton and San Diego across the state of California. So thank you for allowing me to be here and to listen to this process.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Torres. You brought up some good points. And if I could go ahead and just add a couple of cents here to the discussion. First of all, I just want to say that I'm very sympathetic to this issue. I once was a school teacher in Fremont and actually taught at John F. Kennedy High School for a period of years in which I would drive, I believe, on the 880, if I remember correctly, in my directions.
Yeah.
From Hayward.
Yes.
Well, then maybe I taught your nephew, perhaps. Hopefully he's okay. But in any event, I did that drive from Hayward through Union City and eventually getting off of Maury Boulevard to get on Blake Isle to end up at John F. Kennedy High School. Little plug for
There's
JFK
probably a little
Titans.
more traffic there now than there was when
That's right. And so every single time I drove that, though, I would see the plant to my left and to my right, depending on which direction I was driving. And so I'm definitely very much sympathetic. And quite a bit of my students, their parents, actually worked at the plant. And so I know how important this issue really is. And there were some great points brought up by many of the supporters. The issue of research and development obviously is key when we talk about manufacturing. But the issue of production is just as equally as important. And you've heard it here already from many members, and of course many supporters have spoken to this. The fact of the matter is that we're doing some great research and design. However, we're not producing as much as we used to. And I think that that's the direction that we need to move forward in. Obviously, this is a wake-up call, I think, to many folks, but we need to continue as a committee here to engage in that discussion and move us forward. And the issue of NAFTA that was brought up earlier depends on who you talk to, right? But I will say this, in regards to how important that measure really is at the end of the day. I will say this. I live in the 80th Assembly District where we have a 30% unemployment rate as of the latest numbers. And I've also known many people in Imperial County that travel across the border and work in the manufacturing companies in Mexicali, Mexico, earning very little in order for them to sustain their families back home here in the United States. And I'm assuming that's what's probably happening as well in the San Diego area. And so that might be something that we should engage in the future regarding the discussion of NAFTA and manufacturing companies actually leaving the state of California, not only to other states, but also going just across the border for different reasons that I wish not to get into now, but definitely something for us to think through. Now, in your packet, and for those of you that are here and those of you that are out there and sitting in the audience, you have plenty of information here. You have latest fast facts on the California economy in case you want to take a look at this information. You also have, obviously, the Milken Institute report on Manufacturing 2.0. This is a very important document. Please take a look at this document. Very good information for us to take back home, as well as the information that was brought to us by our friends here at NUMMI. Very important information for us to take a look at. And as well, the analysis does provide the information necessary in case people are interested in the different legislation that we're trying to move forward to support NUMMI, and as well, even just support the enterprise zone concept as a whole. I do have a question that I'd like to ask of Mr. Bruce Kern, if that's okay. And the question is, what are your next steps? You mentioned that the proposal is going to Toyota this week. What does that proposal look like, and what do you see are the next steps?
Well, the next steps are really in, I think, your area, and that is really to move forward on those incentives. But the proposal does embody as some Caltrans. Caltrans have been outstanding. It's to better utilize our rail infrastructure. It does involve incentives that are provided through utilities because energy costs and energy, so it deals with energy. It deals with many of your communities. We've been working to try to work with their local suppliers and how we can attract more suppliers to California. In the last year and a half, NUMMI's attracted 3 major suppliers and a number of small suppliers to the state. Their success, because their supply line goes between Kentucky out to California and Japan here. So it's a very long supply chain that they operate. And their objective and their success is going to be able to shorten that supply chain to California to bring more jobs. So our efforts are really to work as a resource with you. We have learned much. This has been an unprecedented collaboration between local government, state, and industry. We've had suppliers at the table. We've had labor at the table, talking through how we can advance the competitive position of this plant as we go against other states and as we try to vision this plant for an industry of the future. This plant is unprecedented 25 years ago because it was established as a breaking the trade barriers between Japan and the United States. That was 25 years ago. The industry is going through a transformation. What better opportunity than California to participate as part of that transformation of a new industry providing competitive vehicles that California consumers are demanding? I think it's a wonderful opportunity. So we stand ready to be a resource to the legislature as you go through your deliberation, but we have to do it expeditiously. It has to be done in the next 3 weeks if we're going to get this done. And I think we stand ready to learn from our experience as we go forward, but we're really focused on the immediacy, which is the action before you, as outlined by the Senator.
Sure. And you heard from quite a bit of members here as well, Mr. Kern, as well as everyone else, that it's definitely important that we continue to tackle this issue, meaning the issue of manufacturing in the state of California. And so I wanted to just bring up a thought to you, and as you move forward with your red team, if perhaps when you submit your list of recommendations, right, if we can work together, because I'd like to see how we can be supportive and what those recommendations may mean when we're talking about manufacturing facilities. What can we do through the Jobs Committee, as well as maybe through Surge, working with you, so we can move forward as to how we can truly create a list of recommendations that would be very supportive of our manufacturing facilities throughout the state of California. I think that would be something worthwhile, and obviously we could restore the middle class, right, move towards economic recovery, all that good stuff that we need to do. Senator Corbett, this is just a thought that came to mind a little earlier. We talked about what's next and the bills, but the legislature is leaving on September 11th. Is there anything that we need to do now before we leave, or maybe even after we leave in the interim?
Like
and if you can,
tomorrow.
if you can help us out.
I have some suggestions.
Sure, please.
I do want to say a little bit in closing, but before that, to answer your question directly, first of all, thank you to all of you. As you may remember, before we recessed, before coming back just this last week, there was a resolution on the floor of the Assembly in the wee hours of the morning and a resolution on the floor of the Senate in the wee hours of the morning. This very resolution that's before you today was passed at the wee hours of the morning on the Senate floor, and you were very kind to unanimously pass a resolution off the Assembly floor. So We started this process very quickly as soon as we knew that we had to, do whatever we could. This process started, and it was unprecedented that we actually moved these resolutions on the night we were working just on budget issues, but it was very good. Everybody worked together and moved those through. So the next steps are, of course, moving this resolution out of this committee so it can be voted on the floor, on the Assembly, and moving the resolution on our Senate side, which I believe is already on the Senate floor for vote. And then also very, very importantly, the 3 pieces of legislation by the authors that I have already mentioned, Senator Wright, Majority Leader Tirico, and myself, to do whatever we can to move those bills from the Rules Committee so they are positioned to be moved as quickly as possible to the governor's desk. I haven't had a direct conversation with the governor on the bills as of yet, but I do want to let you know and report to you with the red teams and the support of his staff and his administration has been just wonderful. He has weighed in. He has spoken to officials at NUMMI. He has been very engaged, and I know he mentions to people, we got to get this done. So we need to get this bill, move it off the floor, and get it to the governor's desk. Mr. Kern already said it. It is very important on the policy level what we do in these bills, but even more importantly is having us have an opportunity to show Toyota that we are willing to move this bill quickly and get it to the governor's desk so it can have an impact and a positive impact on keeping these jobs here in the state of California. So whatever members can do to engage in the process to move the bill quickly, that's the most important thing we can do. I want to thank the local community, and this is important too. I think your local community, some of you spoke to the fact that you have suppliers in your communities. Have them rally as well. They can be all part of this statewide effort. The local community in Fremont, the Chamber of Commerce, individuals, the city council members, the supervisors from Alameda County have all been very, very engaged in letter writing and rallying and just keeping the focus on this. So local efforts are great. Grassroots are always great to show that support. Just let's make this a huge statewide effort to save this plant. But legislators focusing on moving the bills very quickly as we can, and our local efforts, I think, will help us succeed. So those are my suggestions.
Thank you, Senator Corbett. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention as well, the Assembly Committee on Revenue and Tax has done some great work as well. We've worked together on the issue of incentives. So that's another committee that you can lean on, in which we can work together with. Mr. Bell, did you have a last point? Last thought?
I think I'd be interested in, especially in the energy, because there is legislation moving through the legislature. It'll probably be approved because there hasn't been much opposition, allowing a considerable investment in tax-exempt private-public partnerships on the development of energy resources, including the issues that you raised in terms of the cost of energy related to the manufacturing, because I think that's a key expense that we have to deal with and try to lower for California, and try to make the manufacturing facilities have lower rates of energy cost. So that we're working on that. And then I believe is the Caltrans approvals for all the infrastructure for the rail transportation issues to the port. Is that complete?
It is. There has been, in the key corridors that serve the plant, and it served the residents as well in the Bay Area, but there's been $5.4 billion invested over the last 7-8 years that will make improvements. Rail improvements through the Sierras will come online, which are critical for the Northern California to be reducing the travel time out of Chicago and allow for a redundancy of rail service in serving the Bay Area and the Central Valley. Key. But what we're also have recommended and placed in the proposal with full support of Caltrans, which has been terrific, and your Business Transportation Agency, has really been to bring the trains directly intermodally into the facility, which will eliminate the need to put trucks on 580 and 680 and 880 that are serving the plant. So you
the rail
have,
go right into the port.
that is correct. So you will have, it is a mode switch
Right to the boat.
change which will allow for reduction in some of the congestion in these key corridors of California, at least Northern California. And secondly, it will be an environmental benefit because the diesel of the train's emissions is significantly lower than all the trucks that would be added to these corridors. So we have looked at this proposal to structure it both for the near-term cost benefits, level the playing field, but also, as we shared earlier, to really strengthen California's competitive advantage as a leading energy and technology hub and connect those resources to this production facility, which can be really the center for the United States of manufacturing new vehicles.
Well, thank you. And once again, at the end of the day, this is about jobs. This is about good-paying jobs, jobs that on the average person earns at least, $65,000 a year. Not only that, for the most part, they have their health care benefits. They take care of their families. As they take care of their families, taking care of their communities. As they take care of their communities, they're taking care of society. And so that's how we need to take a look at all this. And through our Jobs Committee, once again, we have had a series of hearings throughout the state of California on economic recovery, but we will be having hearings on the enterprise zone concept as well. We're going to continue that discussion, but as well on economic recovery and with a specific emphasis on manufacturing. And so I want to ask all of you to be mindful of that. So in the future, I want to invite you to be part of those discussions because those discussions are very, very important. And on the other end of that, also, there were some good points brought up by your members. The issue of regulation, how does that impact us in a positive, negative way? You know, we have to have some balance there. The issue of incentives, which incentives work, which perhaps don't, which ones are antiquated, maybe which ones don't exist that we need to bring forth. The issue of energy, which I think is very timely. It is a major issue. As a matter of fact, as I read the report, one of the concerns from the report was the costs of energy. And we know that we need to take a look at what does that mean when we talk about energy, transmission lines and permitting and peaker plants for that matter, right? And what does that mean, right? And so at the end of the day, what we need to do is have balance. Balance. And once again, and I'll say it out loud again because this has been my mantra and will continue to be, the old days in which business and labor, business and the environment were at opposite ends fighting against one another. We got to blow up those boxes, throw them away, right? Because these times are very unique, very different. And so I'm asking folks to be creative. Let's move forward with a will to work together in a cooperative, collaborative manner. And with that, I just want to thank you, Senator Corbett. Great job. Continue the good work.
Thank you so very much.
And everyone here that's supporting the measure.
Thank you.
Meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you so very much for all your help. Thank you.